So don't mind me. I'm just,
This one's yours. That's what the name is.
Testing, testing.
Well, I guess you was.
Testing. Deputy Mayor, can you hear us?
I can.
Thank you. But now you know.
All right, so we'll take that one out.
Look like everyone likes that. I had tickets.
Well, I mean, how do you just see it? They made me mayor. The whole city's falling apart. So.
Nice to see you. Yeah. Some familiar faces, yeah.
Hello, I have paperwork for both of you to sign. Hi, how are
Oh, I'm
you?
so good.
It's nice to see you. That's me in my car. I just never. Oh, here it is. Here's all my stuff that I just left behind.
See, this is where everything's still right in the bed.
Look at your signature. And it's out there for your travel, your mileage, and you. Can you sign on the? I put the sticky note down. Sign right there, just that.
I'm on your table.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Yeah. No. Not yet. Not yet. Don't take it there. Oh, thank you. Oh, I think that's me on my side.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't put my air conditioner. Oh, okay. I'm so breathing.
All right, let's call this meeting to order. I want to welcome everybody here tonight to Sunnyside City Council regular meeting for today, Monday, August the 8th, 2022. I'm going to ask the city clerk to make a roll call for attendance.
Mayor Gordon,
I'm here.
Councilor Beeler,
Here.
Councilor Farmer, Councilor Ripley, Deputy Mayor Suchi,
Here.
Councilor Hicks,
Here.
Councilor Hart,
Here.
City Manager Alba. City Clerk Anthony, I am here. Finance and Administrative Services Director Horner.
Here.
Fire Chief Anderson. Police Chief Escalera.
I'm here. That wasn't me.
Public Works Director Fisher. Community and Economic Development Director Martin.
Here. All right, thank you. First item of business is invocation. Is something giving an invocation? All right, I'll ask you to stand for the invocation and state your name, stand before the pledge, please.
Our gracious Father in heaven, I do pray today for this city council and for the meeting, for all the decisions, Lord, that will be made. I just pray that you would bless them with wisdom, grant them discernment and understanding in all that they do. Thank you. I thank you for each one of these people who are willing to serve in this capacity and ask for your special blessing upon them. Lord, I thank you also for those who serve our community in the area of law enforcement, our police officers. Pray that you would keep them safe and bless them, help them, assist them all that they do for our community safe. Thank you also for the firefighters and paramedics in this community. Thank you for the way that they, their own lives in this service of others. And just pray that you would continue to grant them success. I think about our city of Sunnyside, and Lord, I do pray for peace. Pray that you would grant that in a special way. That you would grant our community with citizens who know the difference between right and wrong and have a desire to do that which is right. Lord, I pray myself that everyone in this community would have the opportunity to know grace and mercy of Jesus Christ. Pray these things in his name.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, maybe see it. Item number 1, public comments. Citizens are advised that they must limit their remarks to council to 3 minutes. Council may refer items to staff to review and or research for presentation at a future council meeting. I do want to remind you that council may not necessarily comment on your presentation, but we do listen, we take notes, and we take it seriously. And I also want to encourage those who are giving comments to remain until the end of the meeting for staff reports, because quite often the staff report will address the comments that you bring forward. So, if you are going to make public comments here, please approach the microphone, state your name, city of residence, and state your comment. Any takers this evening? Come forward.
Evening, council. My name is Mayor 710 South. I have no idea what I'm going to talk to you about right now. I do have a lot of thoughts in my head. This weekend was beyond crazy. Thank you and the department for everything that you guys are doing. Caring for our community. I pulled into the parking lot, I was disappointed. Really, this is our community, nobody cares. I do. There's a lot of parts of our community that sadden me. One, the violence. Do I feel safe? Yeah, for the most part, I really do. I'm not afraid of these people. I live in the middle of them. Is it acceptable? I'm also sad, filthy, dirty. Just my 90-year-old mother for a ride. She has dementia. Now, this is a really dirty city. And disgrace. You see the weeds everywhere. Anywhere I drive. I live 7 blocks from my mother. I can count at least 6 homes, and I'm running really short. 6 abandoned homes with weeds. What's going to keep these people who don't have anything better to do than to throw a match and start big fires? Where are our employees? I see them driving around sometimes because I have stores around me. And go in and get something to drink and drive around again. What are they doing? What's getting enforced? I get graffiti on my home that fast. You need to go paint that graffiti off your house. What about all the other places around town? Do they not get the same notifications, or is it because I live smack downtown? We need to do better. Start right here in this room. Each department reports to all of you, and I know my time is out. I'll keep it short. But it starts at the top. And you all have to do a better job. Every single one of you. All of you department heads. Chief, I know you guys are doing a great job. There's other departments that need to be accountable to all of you. We have to look like a community that we're all proud of. I thank you for your time. I told you I was going to ramble, but I appreciate you.
Thank you, ma'am. And in reaction to your nervousness, ma'am, keep in mind that we're all just normal people who have our own jobs, and we're sitting up here. It looks intimidating, but we're not nearly as intimidating as your team like when we're sitting back here. Any other comments this evening?
Jim Stevens, 328 Grandview Avenue, Sunnyside. Congratulations to the city for a successful night out. I went down there, there was a lot of people there, there's concessions, and everyone seemed to be having a good time. They're starting in the right direction. You know, continually we notice stray dogs, driving to see some guy was right trespassing through a property when it was right over there. Saw 2 stray dogs. One was a pit bull, just wandering around the street. As I mentioned before, I'm a little bit sensitive to this. Wife getting knocked out, spending 3 days in the hospital for and also speeding cars, grand And the amount of traffic was terrible, but the speeding traffic was dangerous. I had one parent said, you know, I won't let my kids go out for walking because I'm concerned for their safety, but their daughter's teenage. And after I was walking that, I said, you know, that's a good point. It was me this way. I mentioned before too, my kids are concerned about our grandkids coming to our house because of the amount of speed that goes by our house. And that goes along with the noisy cars that from Grandview Avenue, we can hear them all the way down on Yakima Valley Highway. Now that is excessive, and we have an ordinance about that, yet we're not enforcing it. These cars are all over town. It used to be, hear one of these cars periodically. Sounds like Indy 500 out here. And they're not afraid. They're really proud to romp on that gas pedal and let you know they're there too. So as this woman said, it's your responsibility as the iWatch group. We want to help you out. I'm respectful of all of your time of being here, the time you take away from families and jobs. And I'm not here every night and spend all the time you do. So I greatly appreciate it. I want to help as much as we can. We can all work together. I think that.
Others wishing to make public comment this evening? Right. All right, well, thank you to those who made comments this evening. Keep in mind that we do hear you and we do pay attention, so questions will be further addressed. Next item is consent agenda. Item A, payroll vouchers. Approved payroll vouchers number 119136 through 119114 and wire transfers as listed for $807,004.04 for the period ending on July 31, 2022. Claim vouchers. Approved claim voucher number 104134 through 104183 and wire transfers as listed for $187,664.66 for the period ending on July 27, 2022, and approved claim voucher number 104184 through 104221 and wire transfers as listed for $309,121.56 for the period ending on August 3, 2022. Council members, is there any item that any council member would like to remove from the consent agenda? Hearing none, what is the desire of council on this item?
I'll move to approve.
Motion by Councilor Hicks, second by Councilor Ripley to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any debate on this item? None. Madam City Clerk, will you go down the roll and vote, please?
Councilor Ripley? Yes. Mayor Gordon?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Tucci?
Yes.
Councilor Beeler?
Yes.
Councilor Hicks?
Yes.
Councilor Farmer?
Yes.
Councilor Hort? Yes. Mayor, there's 7 yes votes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Active agenda. Yakima Valley Regional Criminal Intelligence Center presentation. Receive a presentation from Yakima Valley Conference of Government staff.
Mr. Mayor, I think we have Executive Director of Yakima Valley Homes Government, Chris Wickman.
Glad to have you here.
Thank you. I am glad to be here. Thank you for allowing me to present to you tonight. I have a presentation, and then I would like to give an opportunity for the police chief and some others, Commissioner Lindy, to also speak about what this is looking like in our so far. So pretty excited about it. For those of you who don't know, YVCOG was established for the purpose of working on programs and projects for all of our communities. So if it is something that crosses borders, your city borders, that other cities also are dealing with, that is a program that YVCOG can administer. Where should I be? Oh, there it was. There we go. Okay, now.
technology guaranteed to keep your life interesting.
I know it's great when it works.
The projector is right up on the ceiling. I don't know if that's where we need it.
There we go, perfect, thank you. I'll just ask you that. So as you can see, we have the cities that are supporting us. Law enforcement has been meeting and talking about how to support each other. And we also have YWCA, who deals with domestic violence, SD, who deals with all of the school districts. Let's see, I don't want to forget some of these others. Oh, comprehensive health, and also the Chamber of Commerce. So how this all happened, how it actually started was after COVID, we received a grant from Commerce to go out and do community engagement to help the community and law enforcement partner again. So there was just during that COVID time when everybody was stuck at home and now we're all out in the public again, being able to partner with law enforcement and helping your community know how and when to reach out to law enforcement. When we went to present to the police chief about this grant that we have received, we heard from alcohol, tobacco, firearms about a machine called a NIBIN. And we're going to get into that in a moment. But the NIBIN machine was very cost prohibitive to any of our members to purchase on their own. So the prosecuting attorney said, well, that's what COG does. You guys purchase things and then everybody shares in that cost. Maybe you guys could buy it. So I went back and wrote up a proposal and took it into Sheriff Udell, and he said, I think this could work. Let's go to the police chief. Okay. So in this, what you are seeing is the cost per homicide per suspect is 1.4 million. Think about that for a moment. 1.4 million per homicide per suspect. You don't see all of those costs, but it's law enforcement, it's the emergency room, it's victim support, it is all of the court costs. When we looked at that, and we looked at the cost for all of our cities for the first year, if we had to pay full price, was 1.5 million. So what I'm going to show you are the equipment that we are actually looking at purchasing. And so there is a mapping system. There's the NIBIN that I shared a little bit about. There is what's called a vision X, pretty cool microscope for all of the science geeks. The rapid DNA and also digital forensics. So this presentation
members. He does it sometimes this way.
Big city problems. In 2016, there was an assault on the local police, and one of the officers killed was my cousin. That drove me to get in touch with the police department and ultimately provide assistance where I could with my knowledge of GIS. Every dashboard overall is a paradigm shift in how policing is done. Putting the information into the hands of the people that need it when they need it, really giving them the opportunity to proactively police and reduce violent crime instantaneously. One of the first dashboards that we made was the daily operations. That's open and active 911 calls. It's also your active vehicle location, so where the officers are, it allows commanders to see where their resources are, where the incidents are occurring in real time, and how to respond to them. The COP dashboard was built with the intention of the weekly commanders meeting. When Chief Paul talks to his district commanders, each commander can highlight what operations they've been doing and what effects that has had. If it's working, to keep doing it, or maybe try something. It's been used as far as just directing patrol, but also with large-scale operations. The risk-based policing dashboard uses the risk terrain model to really understand what's the crime attractors within a community. When we run the model, you get your areas of elevated risk of crime. This really helps understand what's attracting crime to these hotspots and what's making them persist over time. Once you make that area unattractive to the criminal element, where they're doing direct control at the highest risk locations, you're reducing the risk of crime happening there before it has even had a chance to occur. Whereas traditional policing methods, you have to wait for a string of burglaries to occur before you can respond. Often drive department policy is get ready to be added to the act. The capabilities of the police department have been greatly enhanced in ways that were never possible before.
That is the mapping we currently use as for our land use planning. We already have experts on staff who know how to use it. And we will work with each of the different cities to determine what type of dashboard they want. What do they want to see? So not only will they be able to see their own city, but they'll also be able to look at the entire region. So this one is on the Niven machine.
For shootings in Cincinnati, this is not inside profiling the way the police are working to keep your family safe. He shows us how bad it is linking guns to suspected shooters. This is the Cincinnati police diamond system. This computer may not look like much, but in the past 18 months, it's already the #1 tool in helping to solve shooting cases in the Queen Cities. The Queen City Square shooting in 2016 prompted the purchase. Detective Robert Upchurch took shell cases to a Niven machine in Dayton. It tied them to a weapon Ray shot Harold used in a Mount Auburn gun battle. Now we have the rest for something terrified our downtown residents. Assistant Chief Paul Dudzik says the most recent success was November's shooting of James Back on the Taylor Southgate Bridge. Found in critical condition, no witnesses, no suspects, Detective upsurge again found the shell casing in blood and took it to Nottingham. Weeks later, a gun was found in a high school locker. That gun recovered at the high school was used in that shooting. The protocol is test firing a gun and collecting shell casings and bullets. Here's just like a fingerprint that the firearm leaves on the casing. Analysts like Officer Chris Vogelpool examine it and enter pertinent data in a federal ATF database. Pictures are taken and it's all sent to a coordination center in Alabama. They'll let us know if casings that we put in match up with anyone else in our region. Sergeant Don Scout said the goal is beaten in 14 to 72 hours. If it's an urgent case, we can always call down to the coalition center and have an answer within a couple hours. So far, confirmed correlations number 700, at least one a week. So you can imagine how flat the techs are to get that huge critical break and know that the gun using one of their offenses in someone's possession. That is one tool that helped reduce shootings from 479 in 2015 to 410 last year. Another is shot spotting, which helps officers respond more quickly. I think the next big piece we already have, but we need to expand upon, is our camera network. The bottom line here is the department is not using just the left to solve cases. It's data-driven, technology-driven, but the most important element is cooperation from the community to solve the cases and make the streets safer for everyone. Tom Dean out of his eye, clean case.
This clip, this clip is talking about the microscope that they actually use to identify and see what the fingerprint is on it.
What we're going to do now is what's called a format test. We'll take a series of non-photographs, which will then reconstruct one giant image that's done in microscale in one giant photo. What we're looking at now is a close-up of the breach face information. All the striations that mark on that breach face photograph. We're able to side by side and move the hairline back and forth to see how much is common between the reference image and the test one. Here's your reference. This provided was standard during the correlation, and this is provided in the database that came up as the best measurement. And already taken on, so a lot of similarities here with shear marks, all the striations on the surface. The real-life images some common details between the two. What we're going to look at now is the correlation results from one source. So what we're going to do now is see how much common information is just really used to exhibit by sliding together and also by moving the hairline back and forth. What the tracking shooter enabling marketing centers to do now in Prime Lab is to scan through thousands of practice exhibits now, past jurisdictions as well, that are numbers that are minimally possible. And it's really giving them a new tool to create things from product and get very much shooting. All right, now.
So the next piece of equipment that you're going to look at is the rapid DNA. And this is so important to our coroner out of everybody that we have spoken with. So when he is dealing with maybe died in a fire or a person who cannot be identified, to be able to take that DNA and be able to give that answer to that family of that victim is probably one of his largest goals.
In 2017, a brutal quadruple homicide rocked Bucks County, Pennsylvania. Law enforcement officials turned to Applied Biosystems' rapid hit ID system from Thermo Fisher Scientific to identify the victim and bring closure to the family. Bucks County continues to use this technology on a daily basis to catch criminals, exonerate the innocent, and keep the community safe. When you have 4 missing boys, when you have killers on the loose still, every second counts. I think the sheer speed over, and they're done, and they're in custody, and at 92 minutes, there's one less victim out there.
The last video has to do with digital forensics. Talking with law enforcement, one of their highest priorities.
Recent times of COVID response, it's become an even bigger problem as children are at home because they're not in school, adults are at home because they're not working, and now they're matched together on the internet.
More and more the internet is being used by offenders because they can hide behind the anonymity of the internet to reach out to children in chat forums or social media networks.
A study by Purdue University in 2017 said that 1 out of 25 children will experience solicitation online.
That's 130 cases sitting on your desk. Every single one of them are good cases. Every single one of them could lead to suffering for children. Where do you start? How do you prioritize one case over another case? Currently, the biggest challenge we encounter really is the sheer volume, both of devices, but also the amount of data that's on those devices. Secondarily, is getting past the content on the devices. The security for individual devices has become a lot stronger. Help them get into them, and the tools like Soulbright and Outright and all of those do just that. Get onto the device, you get at that data, and then you put it into a format that's useful for us to analyze.
Some of the biggest challenges that we have in addressing internet crimes against children are the multiple steps of investigations that we have to take. The multiple search warrants to electronic service providers, the internet service providers, and then going through all of that data that comes back. Technology that Celebrate offers a way for us to go through that process in a more efficient manner. It takes to identify identify these kids and who's preying on them and what's occurred to them.
We share with all of our jurisdictions the cost of this equipment, and you can see why it's so expensive that not just one city could handle taking. So the NIBIN was plus the 17,000 for the equipment, the supplies that go with it, and then the Vision X is another 190. The rapid DNA is 256,000, the crime mapping 37,000, and then you need that. You need the expert able to be trained and be able to support law enforcement at the expectation that law enforcement. As I shared, the coroner, the rapid DNA was probably what caught his attention, was because he had just submitted some DNA over to the state crime lab for a person. And he said that it would be 7 to 10 years before he would hear back that DNA. I will let law enforcement share why that is the case. But as the family and you're waiting because you want closure, not move on until you. So we were very fortunate to have Commissioner Lindy make a motion that this project be funded for the first 3 years, $2.8 million by the county ARPA funds. And Commissioner Anderson, we are working with the county right now to set up the contract to be able to order the equipment and start bringing in staff. That, of course, is the first 3 years. We need to make this sustainable. And we are talking with and looking at other grants. We're talking with to be able to provide funding. But the reality is, it all comes back to the cities, because that is how we affordable, is we share in the cost. So the first year for Sunnyside would be $15,000, and it goes up to 24 and 24. What we really want to emphasize is that we are here to enhance what you guys are already doing. We want to be able to work with your ones that are already on staff. We want to work together. We want to provide more information. It's going to take all of us to do. So at this point comes your questions. But before we get into those questions, I want to give Commissioner Lindy an opportunity to share with you why he felt he needed to move this.
Thank you, Chris, and good evening, City Council staff. You know, in my short time as County Commissioner, I've made a few observations. One is we have interesting dynamics in Yakima County. We have a county government, we have over a dozen small local city governments of varying sizes. And by our nature, I think we're all, as government entities, we're all dependent. We like to be self-reliant, and I think that's good. But sometimes it can be a negative. I've seen either opportunities for us to be able to cooperate more between the government and of us have enough money and resources to do the things we really need to do. But if we can share those resources, they're all pitch in collectively, it gives us opportunities that we can't do. Second thing I've noticed, that the number one issue that comes before my desk is crime. You're talking about the violent crimes, the shootings that we hear up and down the county, on out to on the reservation, to theft that has just gone. In terms of the farmers and business owners that live out there, people have real concerns. They want to feel safe in their community. The other thing is that we have this unique opportunity with the ARPA funds, and although, well, it's kind of interesting. We have about total we received was nearly $40 million, but in this first year we received $155 million in requests. So it's obviously we can't. But to me, we look at all the things that I just mentioned: the opportunity to collaborate, share technology and resources, high priority that public safety and crime is for our citizens, and a commitment that we've made to try to help the cities with some of their needs. Made it seem to me that this is an opportunity, which is why I moved this forward. This is actually the only ARPA application that we, but I felt it was important enough that we need to get started on it. That's where I'm coming from in a nutshell. I take the opportunity for you, and I think this is an opportunity for us. So when I talked to Sheriff Udell about it, you know, he said this is probably in his 30 years in law enforcement the greatest single opportunity that he has seen to help enhance our law enforcement efforts, and that was good enough for me, frankly, to hear that from his lips. So that's why I've approved it.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Council members, you have your opportunity to ask questions or make comments. Oh, do you have more, Chris?
Yes, I do.
I apologize.
No, that's okay.
Questions? You've got more presentation to go.
I do. I would love to bring up Chief Chrisman and also have Chief Escalera also share. So I don't know who wants to go first.
Well, good job.
for those of you I haven't met, I was the commander here in Sunnyside under the esteemed Chief Escalera. So now I'm up in Selah. But I spent the first 15 years of my career over on the west side in the medical examiner's office before I became a police officer, and I migrated in and out of the state crime lab. The thing that I'm probably most excited about this concept is that we are in a partnership with Washington State Patrol Crime Lab at this point. We've met with them. They're very excited about helping to stand up this center as well. So the comparative microscope that Chris talked about will be linked through the internet to a peer who would be able to do a peer-on-peer review of the casings that are submitted to NIBID. And then also just having them kind of on speed dial as our group starts to learn some of the ropes about the forensic science side of policing. The ESRI crime mapping system, Chief Escalera will have his own dashboard. He'll be able to look at crimes in his area. The fact that they're employing 3 crime analysts as a sort of a central repository for crime, those people will be able to mash up the numbers and actually give us chiefs around in Yakima County information to the point where we expect that they'll start predicting crime for us. Like you have had a string of commercial burglaries in your city that occur on Tuesdays and Wednesdays between 7 and 10 p.m. predominantly. So now we can focus our resources in those places that the prediction rate is higher, that we're going to catch somebody. So all of this stuff is very exciting. As Commissioner Lindy said, Sheriff Udell's very excited about what can happen. He talks about some of his folks out in the county have just stopped reporting crime because the response time is slow, or it doesn't get to the right people, doesn't get to the detective division, doesn't get the same level of attention that some of the other crimes are getting. The only other piece I wanted to share with you is coming from the west side. At a time years ago when the Bloods and the Crips were actively at war in the Seattle area, what we saw is when Seattle PD started squeezing them, they popped out into the county. And then when the county started squeezing them, they popped into Tacoma. And you probably remember the Hilltop Wars that were going on in the late 80s, 90s. And then when Tacoma said enough's enough and they squeezed them, they went out into Pierce County. And Pierce County has never been able to squeeze them enough to move them. The same thing is going to happen here. And I've said time and time again, if you can predict it, you can prevent it. But if we get together as a team, all of the agencies together, come to one table, dump all of our data into one central repository. We're not just squeezing them from, Yakima to Selah, or Selah out into the county, or down into the lower valley, but we're all working on the same people, and putting people in jail who need to be in jail, and giving people the attention that need the attention to stop the violence in our county. It has to stop. All of us agree. I'm speaking to you from the Upper Valley as well. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I yield the floor to Chief Escalera if he has any comments.
Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you, Jeff. Some comments. I think that, the technology that's presented this evening is certainly something that's much needed. I think that what it does is certainly complements the efforts that are currently going on with the police departments and sheriff's office throughout the entire valley. It is a force multiplier in solving crimes. There's no question about it. It's certainly not something that's affordable for every agency to have. So, having a program like this and having the regional crime center in place is certainly something that is exciting. There's no question. And I think that having that information to our disposal much quicker, obviously, is going to help us solve crimes faster. It's not the only answer, obviously. That's not what you're seeing here today. Obviously, there's two policing and solving and sustainability than what you're seeing. Does it complement things that enhance our abilities to solve crimes? Absolutely. But I do want to discuss just a moment what Sunnyside is doing. So, as
I presented to city council here months ago. One of the things, one of the models that we're using to reduce crime is risk-based. Risk-train modeling. Risk-train modeling is basically a component of risk-based policing. Using that, it's very expensive, and so I spoke with Dr. Joel Kaplan, one who actually one of the folks that developed the model, and so our analyst that we have here, she specializes. And so what's really nice about what we have going on in the city right now is we've developed not the same dashboard. It's a different dashboard, very specific and very in tune to the crime that's occurring here in Sunnyside, which is assisting us in doing, you know, in May we were up to 467% over this time last year in our gun violence, right? We have knocked that down 204% in 2 months. There's a reason why we're able to do that. And risk train modeling, risk one of 3 that we have. She has come up with something very, very similar to what you're saying. She is building and it continues to build. And it does help us and is required by our service on a daily basis what they use. Right, and do. So to have this where it's amassed into a county-wide system and very accessible to the feds who assist us greatly is huge. Major thing. Our analyst is specific to us, and we need to keep it that way. You know, when it comes to working for the issues, but obviously deploy her very generous and allowing a lot of the business that she I think she's so helped us in many ways. Anyway, so at the end of the day, I think it's something that we really need to look at. So,
Thank you. Can you share what the risk-based policing is?
risk-based policing is risk-based policing is exactly the exact same book and what that is it concentrates on locations and not people. And so what you really have, and that's what we have here, our biggest nemesis in the city of Sunnyside is certainly not crime. Our biggest nemesis and an apathetic community, is a very difficult change. And so you're not out here, you're not necessarily going to rush your way out of this to work. You have to find other means in order. And that's currently what we're working now in our intervention areas that we've deployed throughout the city and hitting the target areas that are basically hotspots. The hotspots tells you where it occurs, but it doesn't tell you why it's occurring in those. If clusters of shootings occurring or burglary stuff, doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't tell you why that's happening. You have to go in there and perform those analysis. There is software that assists you to do. So we are doing our own doing that and deploying that. It is what's really helping us to that. The risk-based policing to it to assist us in what it is that we're doing that affects our city. It is a great program.
And that is why I'm kind of proud of this we want to work with your analysts. It is so important, the work that they've started here for us to be able to. The other thing that I would like to share, and then I'm going to open it up to any questions of us, is that why become administers programs? We are not law enforcement. We don't plan on a regional police department. All we do is administer a program, but the police chief will be the operations. They will be the
Thank you, Chris. Now, council members, questions, comments? Ready?
A question, what percent of the public out there just criminals, yes, when they somebody. Well, if it's an identified person, we'll take that track, then we rely on a family member who might have a hairbrush or toothbrush or something that may contain the DNA of the person that was missing or unidentified. And then there's also a database for a federal database that Michigan people go into. And so now we have access to gather that information from family members. So it's not like there's a database of people that are out there, but there are mechanisms in place that we can actually what we need to do the comparison. One of the things that Prosecutor Brusick talked about was, you know, this may not give us a court-ready DNA test, but if it hits positive, then it can go to the state lab, and state lab has agreed to take it, expedite that, to get it ready to go to trial for like a murder. And the same question about the casting. If that done hasn't been, that's correct. Yeah. When I was here in Sunnyside, we had a shooting, picked up some brass from the scene, it went into Niven, and it got tracked to a firearm in Mount Vernon. So the good news about this is what we found out at the time was there's very sophisticated process in place that the gangs can move firearms and people who are hot to other areas to cool down a little bit. And they'll trade a gun, in this case from Mount Vernon back to Sunnyside. Or a person will go rest them over on the west side for a while, get them out of the purview of the police. And so we can start tracking those around the state and outside of the state as well to other states that are using Niven as a way of getting that signature on the brass. But if it's the first time. That was my last question, is who else in Washington is that? Well, we want everybody to, obviously not every single agency is yet, but I would say that the majority of the agencies are submitting their brass for analysis, and especially the larger departments. I know all of the Tri-Cities are. Of course, we here have been doing a pretty good job of getting our NIBIN. Oftentimes our evidence techs are driving them. We used to be able to drive them to Kennewick, has a machine, also Cheney has a machine. And my understanding before my time is there was a bit of a war about whether or not the Tri-Cities machine was going to land here in Yakima, but it ended up down there. But we need one here, so we need to start doing this last year. So yes, sir. Great idea. I just have some questions on it. Certainly. I'm happy to bring something like this in. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Further questions and comments?
The machine will be set up in Yakima.
The machine is actually going to be set up in Zilla, so that it will be centrally.
So, how soon, with the ARPA money, how soon, you know, you get the agreement from all the different cities, obviously, and that's gonna take a little while as you go around, right? Have you already collected some agreements from those cities?
Right. So because we are your COG and we are an extension of your staff, I reach out to your city manager or your mayor. And if I get something tonight from you guys that says we're on board, that really is all I need. Okay. So we will, when our assessments are sent out for next year, that cost will be part of it for the regional.
Oh, I have no question.
And go ahead.
Okay, so,
Then we'll go to the next person.
well, I just thought if anybody else had a question first, since I already asked one.
No, go ahead and answer that question.
The whole side of that. Don't hope I didn't forget.
Let's come back to you.
We'll let Mr. Farmer go and we'll come back to you in a minute.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
I think this is a great opportunity. Anytime we can work with other communities and other cities and other entities, it's just win-win for everybody. the question I have, and I may have heard it, I may have misunderstood it. The county basically funding this for 3 years. Any projection on what it's going to cost the fourth year for cities to maintain this?
Yeah. So what we did is during those 3 years that the county is standing up this program, we are collecting from you so that when the fourth year comes around, you're continuing to just pay your $24,000. Because we started to bank that. So we are hoping to just continue with the $24,000 year after year. That's how we can make it sustainable. As while it's being stood up, we'll start collecting costs of the fourth year. So that building.
Makes sense, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Harder, you ready to go?
Yeah, because one of the questions I had is the money that, the initial money is going to be our money.
Correct.
So as we move into the third year, the fourth year, is when we, individual cities would begin paying their $24,000.
No, you will begin next year as we build that pot.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, thank you. I was,
You're welcome.
just to follow up on the
Yeah.
farmers.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't sure if I got
Thank
that.
you.
And I can't remember the other question, so
You got my number.
I got your number.
Okay, other questions, Ms. Ripley? You haven't spoken up yet?
Mr. Mayor?
Okay, and then Deputy Mayor, if you have questions, comments?
Do you want me to go now, sir?
You may.
Okay, thank you. I have no questions. I just need to, for obvious reasons, Mr. Mayor, as chairman of the YVCOG, I've been actively involved in this program since its start. I'm very proud of the work that's been done to bring this program to fruition. Excuse me. I'd be remiss if I didn't publicly thank a number of people, Mr. Mayor. Chris Wickenhagen, YVCOG Executive Director. Thank you, Chris, for your leadership. Mayor John Hotchkin of Union Gap, YVCOG Vice Chairman. Commissioners LaDon Lindy and Ron Anderson for their support of the project. Sheriff Bob Udell, Yakima County Police Chiefs, Yakima County Mayors, Yakima County Prosecutor Joe Brusick, YVCOG Exec Committee members, and the YVCOG General Membership Delegates. And lastly, Mr. Mayor, I'd also like to personally thank Vicki Baker, the YVCOG Regional Programs Manager, for her tireless work on bringing all of these necessary agencies together. If not for these people I mentioned above, the project would never have gotten off the ground for sure. And I'm looking forward to seeing how this program will assist our law enforcement in the region. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. As I'm sure council knows, but not everybody in town knows, we are quite fortunate to have Mr. Rizzuti on our council and involved in this. He has been involved in this process, like you said, from the beginning, and he's a huge advocate for this program. As we all know, crime has been on the upswing in Sunnyside. We began to notice that a while ago. It's been brought to our attention in so many different ways. And so we continue to look for solutions, come up with ideas and try new things. The state has made things any easier on us. And so the city of Sunnyside, as well as every other city in Yakima County, and I think every other city in the state of Washington, has been enduring an upswing in crime. I subscribe on Facebook to the Yakima County Scanner, and I also see the Yakima Scanner on Facebook. And they have many of the same problems that we have, only in larger numbers. So we're not alone in this. However, we live in Sunnyside and it affects us, and we feel the pain when it happens in Sunnyside. And we've heard reports, not just tonight, but in previous council meetings, people who are sick of it. And it's understandable, and we as council members are as well. The county and the YVCOG have been getting together, and thanks to Mr. Rizzuti and everybody else that you mentioned there, this has been moving forward for some time. Solutions to these problems don't happen quickly. Anything that has to go through a government agency, anything that has to go through this process is a slow process, sometimes it's agonizing sometimes. So it's been exciting for me to watch this develop as mayors get together and talk about this and voice our support for it and debate the pros and the cons. It's received positive support from every mayor that I've spoken with. Every city council member that I've spoken with in other communities supporting this. And there's good reason for that. We don't want to just solve crime. We want to prevent it from happening in the first place. Okay? My goal is for all these bad guys to go to jail. I just don't want to squeeze them over to Seattle or Benton County or something like that. I want them off the streets because I don't want these problems happening in Benton County either. So this is a good idea. We're hitting them all at once. I think it makes sense. We have to work together as a valley, as a county. And we have an opportunity here to set an example for the rest of the state. I don't think anywhere else in the state are they trying to do anything like that. And in my mind, 7 to 10 years to get results from the state crime lab is way beyond unacceptable. It's insane. We have the opportunity to get ballistic information back, DNA information back, keep up with what's going on around the community, get that stuff done in a very short period of time. And that helps us solve the crimes as they happen. That puts a lot more pressure on the bad elements in our communities. So to me, it just makes logical sense. And I think we'd be absolutely insane if we didn't go forward with this and support this one. So that's my feeling on this. I probably toned it down a little bit for how I actually feel. But I am very much in favor of this. So further comments from council? Mr. Hicks.
My own opinion is we've been in multiple arrangements with other, and someone always drops out. So at this point, you may cross everything up.
Because we are a cog and we share in this, we will be talking with cities the importance of continuing and making this sustainable. I can't imagine any city dropping out. Currently have the city of Yakima who is not 100% sold. They believe that it would be duplicated. The businesses in the city of Yakima have stepped up and said, we are going to pay for that portion because it's that important that it be in all of our cities. So if somebody were to drop out, we are continuing to look for other funding.
I wanted to echo what the mayor said earlier. I attended a call meeting earlier, I can't remember just after we had it, and I talked about this particular program. And I was really excited about it then, and I'm very excited about it now because I think that this, as you said, squeezing these people into the chute to put them where they need to be, jail, and off the streets where they're committing crimes. I just don't, we don't want, like you said, to just be like the King County example. We know that the gas go across the state. We know that they leave town, then they show up again. We know that it is a state. So having a tracking system, such as they're suggesting with this program, I think is really, really important. I'm excited that you're using the DASH program that the our chief talked about. I see it blending perfectly into what this program can offer. And I'm very, very much in support of it.
Further comments?
I wholeheartedly agree with you. I went to that meeting before about with why we call it, and I like it.
All right, well, thank you for your presentation. I know it was a long presentation. We've had you on your feet for quite some time. Audience members, thank you for staying and hearing. This is important to all of us, not just council members. It's important to the entire community. So I'm glad you were able to hear and see that things are being done. We are taking steps. It's just a lot slower than we would all like it to be. So again, thank you for being here tonight. All right, next item on the agenda. Item D under active agenda, task order. I'll give you guys a chance to leave for a second. You're going to take out. All right. Task order 6th Street project construction services. Consider authorizing the city manager to execute task order 2022-03 with HLA Engineering to perform construction engineering services during the 6th Street improvement project in the amount of $100,500. City manager.
Mr. Mayor, council members, I believe Stephanie Ray is here from HLA to speak on this.
That's right.
Mayor, members of council, city manager, thank you for having me here tonight. Task order 2022-03 is for the 6th Street Improvement Project. It is to provide construction services during the project for the station of water.
2,310 water main plus services that were involved. Project is currently funded by TIB and SCP. Either of those spending programs will install utility infrastructure. We're doing a task. The city had approved our design services task order, which this is the next step. With this task order, schedule-wise, we are looking to be on ad at the end of this month, beginning of September. The water installation will be the first schedule of work to be completed, and it'll happen during the spring. On that, pipe availability is expected to be close to 2.5 to.
Councilman, questions or comments?
This is Decatur to North Avenue, that we're talking about.
Yes, yes. Would be, and the work would be bid as part of the 6th Street project. And utility installation can occur before the roadway improvement. So come spring, the roadway would be in full gear.
Questions? Hearing none, what's the desire of council on this item?
Mr. Mayor, I would move to authorize the city manager to execute a task order 2022-03 with HLA Engineering, perform construction engineering services during the 6th Street Improvement Project in the amount of $100,500.
You, sir, and we have a second. All right, we've got a motion by Deputy Mayor Risucci and a second by Councilor Beeler to authorize the city manager to execute task order 2022-03 with HLA Engineering to perform construction engineering services during the 6th Street Improvement Project in the amount of $100,500. Debate on this item.
Got no debate, but I just want to say that, we started on this already, it's not like. I think we've all agreed to that.
Thank you, sir. For the debate, Mr. Beeler, I agree with you. I've been hoping that this would get started this summer, so yeah, I'm looking forward to getting this done as well.
And I hope we have available to take it. That could be a problem, but hopefully you'll have that.
All right. Madam City Clerk, you know the roll of the vote, please.
Counselor Hart,
Yes.
Counselor Farmer,
Yes.
Counselor Hicks,
Yes.
Counselor Beeler,
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor Risucci,
Yes.
Mayor Gordon,
Yes.
Counselor Ripley,
Yes.
Mayor, there's 7 yes votes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Ms. Ray. CID grant application, item C, YVH improvements. Consider authorizing the city manager to submit an application to secure grant funding through the Washington State Transportation Improvement Board to resurface Yakima Valley Highway. Mr. City Manager.
Mr. Mayor, council members, I'm going to turn this one over to Stephanie Reagan.
Great.
Mayor, members of council, acting city manager, thank you again. So, the Transportation Improvement Board, shortly known as TIB, has an open call for projects. Applications are due August 19th. City staff have identified a priority project currently in your 6-year tip. The Yakima Valley Highway from 1,100 feet south of Edison, which is a mile, down to a joint line just north of Lee. It's basically the worst section left of YVH, which needs. So, city staff directed to prepare an estimate on what that total cost would look like. And we also reached out to a new program manager at TIB, and TIB has some nuances that they've been transitioning toward limiting pavement profiles in for successful applications. So normally the TIB match requirement for the city of Sunnyside is 10%, and TIB would pay for 90% of all the eligible costs. Given Yakima Valley Highway and some of the roadway configurations, I think we all know there's some extra spaces out there for extra lane widths and things. So TIB would support resurfacing the two travel lanes, not the turn, at 11 feet wide. Current gym, I'm sure you're out there at Yakima Valley Highway, you have an 8-foot parallel parking that's makes it better. You have a 12-foot travel lane, a 13-foot turn lane, and another 12. So in the cost estimate that you have in your packet, and I hope it's not too confusing, what we were trying to do is we have to show what the TID eligible costs are compared to the total project. So for this project, to go from, again, McDonald's down to just north of the Lincoln Avenue, you're at a total project of $520,000. Again, normally TID would pay 10%, in this case. So the total city match would be $181,409. Or TID would be providing $838,000. So what we're asking council to do tonight is to authorize city manager to submit application in 2 weeks. If awarded funding, TID would provide notice around Thanksgiving or the first week of December. That time, they will provide the city council with a fuel tax agreement. That's when city council would vote on the actual. So what we're asking tonight, again, is to submit. Program is a highly competitive program. Last year, CIB awarded 4 resurfacing projects. So they're operating under limit to move some money around in this program. But this is the best opportunity we have right now.
Thank you. Council members, any questions or comments?
On this resurfacing, this is all the way down to gravel, or is this just take?
It's go down 2/10, so a little bit more than 2 inches, almost about 2.5 inches. And underneath, if you're driving down the Yakima Valley Highway, you notice that the east side of the roadway wears way better than the west side. And that's because there's concrete panels underneath the roadway, which is stabilized side of the roadway, whereas the west side is just so in those areas where you're driving, it feels like a bunch of speed bumps and you got some divots in there, we'd actually be taking that fully out to do our full depth asphalt repair. It would be spread. And the entire project with the increased match would also grind and overlay the center turn lane and would also seal coat and crack seal that 8-foot of parallel parking, loading and unloading area next to the curb lane. That would also be stabilized.
That's where semi.
Exactly.
Other questions or comments? Hearing none, what is the desire of council on this item? Okay, we've got motion by Councilor Hicks, second by Councilor Wheeler to authorize the city manager to submit an application to secure grant funding through the Washington State Department of Transportation Improvement Board to resurface the Yakima Valley Highway. Debate on this item?
Really need this.
All right, Madam City Clerk, you can also vote.
Councilor Hicks?
Yes.
Councilor Farmer?
Yes.
Councilor Wheeler?
Yes.
Councilor Hart?
Yes.
Councilor Ripley?
Yes.
Mayor Gordon?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Tucci?
Yes.
Mayor, 7 yes votes.
Thank you, motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Ray. All right, item D, I want to ask the question, and I think, our Deputy Mayor might know the answer to this as well as anything. We have an emergency declaration, YDH Lincoln State Home, and that has already been repaired. Do we have to do an emergency declaration for the audit, or can we go ahead and dispense with this item?
We should be able to take action on this item. It's already been declared an emergency.
Okay, so we can strike this.
You heard briefly on this. This is
The
Attorney
attorney
Craig
here.
Riggs from Kerford.
Hi, Craig.
Oh, yeah, Craig, go ahead.
So just a couple things with this. Yes, we can. Actually, the statute requires that in the event that we award a contract without competitive bidding due to an emergency, we have to, within 2 weeks of the award of the contract, find the existence of the emergency, state the relevant facts in the resolution. So in looking at this resolution, it does appear that in the agenda report that there is a pretty good explanation of the facts relating to this emergency. So what I would suggest doing is amending the resolution as it's drafted, incorporating the language from the AR about the facts of the emergency and the surge that destroyed the components. Obviously, this is a relatively busy intersection, so we can't go any period of time without a functioning traffic control device.
I didn't quite understand that, so I said, we need to get that emergency declared before we can move forward.
I apologize. I don't think this is particularly helpful. What I said was the statute 3904280 requires that we include in the resolution the facts supporting the emergency. And so when I look at the resolution, I don't see those facts there, but I do see them in the agenda report, the brief summary that precedes it. And so what I'm suggesting is that the council move forward on this with an amendment, including that language within the resolution. That makes sense.
That makes a little more sense. Give me a second.
I'd make that motion, Mr. Mayor, to amend it.
All right, so we got Deputy Mayor. Second. Motion, Councilor Hicks, second, to make the required amendment to the language of
The summary of the cover sheet.
That's cover sheet, no, absolutely fine. Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second to make that amendment and add that cover sheet made on this item.
If I'm understanding right, this will help us as we go forward for getting the financing.
As I understand it, Ms. Hart, the requirement is that we get competitive bids to get the work done, and this is an incredibly busy intersection, as we all know, and they need to be fixed, and they need to be fixed immediately. So it has been fixed, the work has been done.
Yeah.
But to prevent the city from getting into any trouble, we need to make sure that it is very clear that it's an emergency situation that requires that work done very quickly.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, point of clarification. Mr. Mayor, point of clarification. Just so you know, sir, we're voting on the amendment only, not the main motion.
That's correct. As I understood our legal counsel, we don't need to make the main motion of the declaration of emergency. We just need to declare that and put that, make sure that's in the cover sheet.
Yeah, we just need to make sure that the facts supporting the finding of an emergency are incorporated into the resolution, and I think the summary does that. So I think if we incorporate that, then we accomplish that for the statute.
Okay. That's what I think I was trying to say, but not doing a very good job. So thank you for the clarification. All right, so we are not looking at the declaration of emergency. That is not our motion. It's the amendment, correct?
Motion.
Motion and second, yes. All right, Madam City Clerk, you kind of go down and roll for the votes.
Mayor Barza,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Tucci,
Yes.
Councilor Bueller,
Yes.
Councilor Hicks,
Yes.
Councilor Farmer,
Yes.
Councilor Hart,
Yes.
Councilor Ripley,
Yes.
Mayor, there's 7 yes votes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Is that correct, Mr. Briggs? Now that it's been amended, we can actually do the resolution being actually included now in the cover sheet.
That's how I understand it, Fire Chief.
Was that question posed to the attorney? I didn't quite hear that.
Was, yes. Mr. Briggs, can we now make the motion since we've amended the document?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Very good. Now we have a motion for us. Okay. All right, we've got a motion by Councilor Hicks, second by Councilor Ripley to approve a resolution to authorize the city manager to declare an emergency and waive the standard procurement policy to purchase the necessary equipment, hire an electrician to install a new traffic signal cabinet and components at the Aquanella Highway and Lincoln Avenue intersection. Debate on this item.
Just a question.
Yes, sir.
Did we replace the box and everything, or did we just, fix it so, electrical or ground fault or something?
I was actually, public works director is out, today, so, and for like over the weekend, so. I know the lights have been working.
I drove by there Friday and I was shocked because I've been avoiding that intersection.
I'm not able to answer that question.
Further debate on this item? All right, and clerk, will you now roll the vote? A motion by Councilor Hicks and second by Councilor Ridley on the declaration of emergency.
Councilor Ripley?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor, Mayor Barsham?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Tucci?
Yes.
Councilor Beeler?
Yes.
Councilor Hicks?
Yes.
Councilor Farmer?
Yes.
Councilor Hart?
Yes.
Mayor, 7 yes votes.
Thank you. Motion carries. All right, thank you everyone for bearing with me. Item E, update of fee schedule, SMC 2.02. Consider adopting an ordinance to add SMC 2.02.020 to incorporate the fees associated with Sunnyside Municipal Code 15.04 Building Code and SMC 12.46 Special Event Permits.
Let me turn this over to Mr. Martin.
Well, good evening, City Council. So this is an item we spoke about during our last City Council session. This would be adding fees to areas that we believe that have been lacking over the last couple of years. So if you look at the attachments, we have Title 15. Actually, it's actually Title 19. It is correct in the ordinance. The sheet of Title 19, which is the administrative development regulations of adding a site plan review permit of $125. Then in Title 12, recreation, adding a parade permit and a community event permit at $100 each.
Council members, questions or comments? And for the benefit of the audience members, this is to help recoup some of the costs and the time effort the city staff puts into preparing these parade permits and other applications. Takes a great deal of staff time, and it's something that the city has been doing for free. We've been advised that that's not a good idea, and recommending that we charge some fees for this to compensate for staff time that's been put in. So this is a part of our last study session, the workshop that we had last week. So that's a little bit of background. All right, what is the desire council on this item?
Move to approve.
All right, we have a motion by Councilor Hart, second by Councilor Hicks to adopt an ordinance to add SMC 2.02.020 to incorporate fees associated with Sunnyside Municipal Code 15.04 Building Code and SMC 12.46 Special Event Permits. Debate on this item?
I just want to correct that. It's 1902, not 15.
1902, that is correct, on my paper notes. Debate on this item? Great. Now, city clerk.
Councilor Beeler?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Tucci?
Yes.
Mayor Barsham?
Yes.
Councilor Ripley?
Yes.
Councilor Hicks?
Yes.
Councilor Farmer?
Yes.
Councilor Hart?
Yes.
Mayor, there's 7 yes votes.
Thank you, motion carries. Item F. Sister City, San Cayetano, East Tepeque, El Salvador. Consider approving a resolution adopting San Cayetano, East Tepeque, El Salvador, and the sister city to the city of Sunnyside, Washington. I speak Spanish and I have heart.
Very good.
All All right, Chief, you got information to share with us on this? And Mr. Martin again. Mr. Martin.
Good evening again, City Council. So what you have before you is a resolution and, again, a resolution approving a sister city relationship with San Cayetano, El Salvador, inviting citizens of both parties to participate in cultural, diplomatic, educational, and bilateral trade activities. In your summary explanation, there's a little bit of what the plans are for when the parties arrive around August 15th, and what they'll be doing. They plan to meet with some folks in Yakima, Granger, and here in Sunnyside, and then visit some local farms and kind of get an idea of what they do. So it's a week of learning and exchanging.
Questions or comments, Councilman?
Just curious, when is the tour delegation from Sunnyside going to El Salvador?
And I don't know that yet,
But that has not been established yet.
I don't speak Spanish, but I sure want to go. I think the Sister City program here is really good. It allows us to learn a little bit about culture, some of the folks who live in our community. We have an El Salvadorian contingency in our system. I think this would be really nice to have that. Something that we're actively involved in.
Thank you. Further questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Deputy there.
Thank you, sir. I just wanted to thank the mayor, the city manager, and staff for putting this together. You know, when I was mayor of the city, I tried to get a sister city program together. So I'm really excited to see us moving forward on this. This is a great opportunity for our community, and I'm super excited about it.
I have to actually echo the deputy mayor's comment. This is something that I am kind of excited about too. I've had the opportunity to travel a great deal in my life, and the cultural exchange and the sharing and the growth that happens through an exchange of ideas, spending time together is absolutely tremendous. Honestly, my experience in El Salvador consists of sprinting from one end of the airport to the other with children in tow. So it wasn't the best experience I ever had in the world, but I know many people from El Salvador, and they are wonderful people. We have quite a contingency, and as far as that, we have quite a group of them here in Sunnyside. And so there's an opportunity for culture exchange, growth, knowledge, learning. And so I'm kind of excited about the prospect of it. That's just me. I kind of love this kind of stuff. So, further comments? Hearing none, what's the desire of council on this item?
I move to approve the resolution.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion by Councilor Hart, second by Councilor Bueller to approve a resolution adopting San Cayetano, El Salvador, and the sister city to the city of Sunnyside, Washington. Debate on this item.
I didn't want to say the names that I knew to say, but that's right.
The more often I say it, the better I get at it.
I just really am excited as well about the opportunities for cultural exchange.
For the debate. All right, now, City Clerk, can you go down the roll of the vote, please?
Councilor Grizzly,
Yes.
Mayor Garza,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Tucci,
Yes.
Councilor Beeler,
Yes.
Councilor Hicks,
Yes.
Councilor Farmer,
Yes.
Councilor Hart,
Yes.
Mayor, the 7 yes votes.
Thank you, motion carries. Items from council members. Mayor's appointments for boards and commissions. Once again, I've got some things in the works. And I will report back at the next regular meeting when I get a couple of things finished. Or a couple of things are turned into me, whatever the case may be. All right, council request status report.
Mr. Mayor, council members, I reached out to each of the department heads on this.
Okay. Council members, any items that you'd like to add to the status report?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to add we talked earlier, but I think last month in July, we talked about changing the fireworks situation. And I'd like to see that on the status report so we don't lose track of it. They're going to be working with staff to review the current resolutions on that, but I just want to have it on there so we can get it in roll. Makes sense?
I think it's an excellent idea. It's something that we need to keep before us. It's easy once the fireworks die down after the 4th of July month of fireworks to forget about those sorts of things until they resurface again around the new year. And so to be reminded of that regularly, because there are citizens who are bothered by that, they want to get a resolution to that. They brought it to our attention, and I think we're going to them to stay focused. So absolutely, that will be added. Any other items that council would like to add? None. Let's move on. Item C, other reports, announcements, and or questions by council. I'm just going to go down the table. We're going to start with Mr. Dealer.
Nothing today.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hicks. Thank you, sir. Ms. Ripley.
Nothing today.
Thank you. Ms. Hart.
Oh,
Who's coming?
yeah, well, you know, we had a earlier this evening with the police and cleanup, of the city. And I think that, somehow or other, we need to maybe reinvent the, beautification program in the city now to get, citizens, give them that class out, so you have picture in the paper situation where they, you know, what is it, the thing about, showing up to Jones, with it, and, keeping up with the Joneses, that's it. Like, cleaning up yards and bathrooms, and I think that we do need to institute some sort of plan that will not only get people cleaning up their yards, but congratulate them in some way. I'd like to see us work on that.
I think Ms. Hart has an excellent idea. Ironically, that same thought was going through my head. We can execute a little bit of peer pressure to cause that to happen in our community. We've all complained about weeds over the course of the summer, and trying to stay ahead of that. City staff has explained why it's so difficult for them to stay ahead of it, but yet I think as property owners, we all, or even whether we rent our place, we have a responsibility towards the community, to our neighbors. So thank you for that, Mr. Hicks.
Not too many years back, we had volunteer groups and the house too. By the way, the elderly or.
Mr. Hicks, I was part of that, and I can tell you why it died away. It was called the Loving Sunnyside Initiative. It was brought forward by one of our churches, and the goal was to paint houses and help clean up yards. They had very specific criteria for which homes they selected. They had to be owner occupied. They had to have X number of months behind in some of their bills and other struggles that they were going in. Identified by city staff, they helped pick those houses, and the goal was to paint 100 houses, and they did. But by the time they painted 100 houses, it was an exercise they did twice, 2 different occasions a year, 6 months apart, one in the fall, one in the spring. But by the time they got 100 houses, the leadership of that organization was tired, and they said, we're not going to do another 100 houses. That's a lot to do. So that has gone away now. Of course, a number of years have passed, they're all older. Things in life have changed, but it was a great idea. We accomplished a lot, and I felt real good about that. So that is something that could be done. That can be tied together. Maybe we can encourage. That could be something that we can talk about in our subcommittees and see what we can do with that. That's a brilliant idea. Mr. Farmer here.
I kind of agree with the council person part. It was one of the things I wanted to talk about tonight. I get accused at least 2 or 3 times a week of kicking the can down the road over the city. I know staff is working hard, and courts make it tough to do anything, but I think we can do more. Our last meeting, we got a sheet of what the code enforcement has done. I would like to make sure we see that monthly. I think that the more we're aware of it, the more we can put our ideas and our way behind it. Not the town I grew up in. Bothers me greatly. And I don't really have an answer for it. I just know that we have to change somehow. And until we can start holding the chronic people accountable, we're not going to change a thing here. I know I didn't see it on the council status report, but I did ask last week to put, I want to know what staff is doing in regarding the ordinances that they are looking at, revising. I think I want those on that, report. A lot of things that we need to look at. It's not only the overgrown weeds, it's the racing cars, it's the hot exhaust, it's the, don't give a darn, what I do to my neighbor anymore. I just think we need to stop, take a look at ourselves, and let's push this thing forward.
So I'm looking at the calendar study for the second bottom on the ordinance and code enforcement, so that is there. Is there anything you needed? I mean, that's Ms. Hart's.
Okay, I brought it forward, but it can be Ms. Hart, and I don't care. I just wanted to.
That was my question,
Okay.
It should say, I think it should say Mr. Fine.
Okay, so we can change that because it's department, that's not.
I mean, not that I'm in agreement, because you need to be doing that, but yeah.
And the fire one was on July,
Okay, thank you.
And they do tie together, they really do, so I think that's the word you're looking at, absolutely. Deputy Mayor Suchi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I only have one item of concern tonight, and that is council's direction at the last meeting to modify 2.500 or 0160. After reviewing the ordinance, Mr. Mayor, the authority to appoint a seventh member already exists in the ordinance itself. The confusion came that there were 6 items under section A. And I think that's where we were confused in thinking that each one of those had to be an issue, a member from that class. However, to appoint a 7th member of the Economic Development Commission, the authority already exists to do that, because when the commission was created, it was created with 7 members. So I will be bringing back some code revisions that will encompass the entire document. So I'll be defining ex officio, since we had a discussion about it at the last meeting. I think it's important that we define what that means per that chapter. I'll also be modifying 2.50, 050, and 060 to put them in line with the rest of the chapter. So instead of repeating basically what 040 says about the terms and membership, we can just reference that instead. This way we only have to change the document in one place if we need to change it in the future. Other than that, Mr. Mayor, that's all I have.
Thank you, sir, and that will definitely help. The question came because there was some confusion, like you said, there were 6 items, and so we just kind of assumed that was going to be that number of members. So we can and we will add one more member to the group, and I will talk to the individuals that I had in mind, and we will go from there, and I'll make that announcement next meeting. So thank you for your work on that, sir.
No problem. Thank you.
I have nothing else to add to that. I would have had comments on the crime analysts and that sort of thing. However, we received an excellent report from others, and so I'm not going to add to that. I'm still kind of excited about the prospect of that moving forward. I think it's something that we need to do at a countywide level, and of course, obviously, we're mostly first concerned with the city of Sunnyside, but if we push it to someone else, it just makes the problem somebody else's problem. So we want to get that stopped. These guys don't deserve to be on the streets at any time in this valley. They deserve to be in jail. So I'm excited about the prospect of working together. I also do want to make a comment. I have participated thus far in every national night out activity that we've done in the neighborhood and the citywide one. I am extremely impressed with the work that's gone on to make that go. The communities have participated. Our police officers and firefighters have been there involved. City staff has been there, and it's been really a good process. People don't know who their council members are, so I think it's important that we show up as well. And I surprised a couple people. I said this at the last meeting that surprised a couple people that I was the mayor. Surprised in the second round that I could speak Spanish with them. I got some really good conversations with people. They've got some legitimate concerns, unable to come to the meetings because they don't feel like they speak the language and they would be understood. But their concerns are still just as real as anyone else's. And so they don't like the crime. They appreciate the police officers coming in and the special emphasis work that the police are engaged in at this time. They don't have a problem with it. They think it's a great idea. They want crime reduced in their neighborhoods as well. So this is something that I think can bring this community together, and staff is doing an amazing job, so I just want to compliment them on that.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to echo some of that. You know, I was out there with my team and everything, on the Waterway, and watched you be done. That was fun. Several times, I tried to take pictures, but I did pretty quickly back up on the seat. So that was the wonderful. But I do believe that some of the comments that we heard earlier this evening from our police chief, really helped to bring it to the foreground that we are working on targeting the folks who use the bad guys. And I really want to commend your department on that. It is, you've brought it, we're bringing it down. I know we just had another shooting. There's several inappropriate things I could say to that I won't. But I'm really pleased about the way that you are using your officers with this. And like you said, you're bringing it down, and I think that's really important for the entire community to recognize that. It's not an easy process. They're just like little rats, and they go under their own holes and they hide and they move. And we have to keep after them. We have to make it really difficult. We can do that as residents as well. You know, there was that apathetic, there was the word apathetic was used earlier. That's unfortunate. There's, the Sheriff Udell was saying, people don't want, they don't do this, give it up, and they don't want to call in and report. That's our fault. As citizens of our community, that's our fault. If we don't say something when we see something, how can we ever change things? You know, we can't just look at it and say, well, that's weird. We have to say, that's not right. And I want to just applaud you on your officers, the work that you guys do. And sometimes bad things happen in the course of the work that you do, we've heard. But nonetheless, you have to keep rolling on. Do follow.
Thank you, sir. Next item, upcoming council meetings.
Mr. Mayor, council members, there's a typo on the agenda, for Monday, August 15th. That's not, a typo. There's not being that night. For Monday, August 22nd, regular meeting, I'm going to be bringing an item to the council. Fire department received, actually selected and participated in developing a community paramedic program, and we received grant funding at least 2 years, I believe $150,000 each year to develop that program. The next thing is going to be the Community Economic Development Commission membership. That's Mr. Martin. I believe we've determined that we're already on some positions. And then Franklin Port Water Main Improvement Contract Award. I don't know if that looks like Fisher, but I don't know if Stephanie later or not. Then we do have our budget retreat on August 27th. That'll be a special meeting. I believe it's going to be held at the community center.
All right, hey, sir. Okay, you two of the second here. Okay, so those of you who are on public safety, Chief Anderson and Chief Escalera, I would like a public safety meeting next week, Monday night. We don't have a city council meeting then. If we could meet at the police station conference room. Is that all right? 6:30 continue to work for you guys. You want another time, council members? Okay, well, there's three of us who are on that. All right, let's say 6:30 next week. That's the 15th. Conference room here at the police station. We've had members of the community who have spoken up, and I think they have brought us food for thought. The chief obviously has a lot to report. I know the fire department has been very busy as well, and I think some of that is related to what the police department is doing. I know they've been so busy that police officers have to transfer patients been a really busy time, so I think it's good for us to catch up on what's going on and hear what they're doing, hear the results of some of these. We heard the chief talk about tonight what they're doing that can match with what the county's talking about doing, the White Cloud. So I think we did a little more report on that. So the public safety next week. All right, items from department heads. Chief.
Yes, I think, Ms. Warner is still on Zoom.
I am still on, and of course I have something to add. My speaker's not working very well, so I'm using my headphones. But I just wanted to advise the council that we did have a delay by the U.S. Postal Service in customers receiving their utility bills this month. And it was actually last month, but the customers have received late fees, some of them, and they were very upset. We had quite a few people that were very upset about it. I just wanted to keep the council informed because I know that the mayor had received some communication and the city manager as well. In situations like this where the delay is out of the city's control, unfortunately, we do have to enforce those late fees. If the situation had been something where the city had made an error in getting the bills out on time, that would have been another story. But unfortunately, we did everything as we usually do, issued the bills on the last day of the month. They went out from the printer as they were supposed to. And once they get into the hands of the USPS, we have very little control over what happens. But I just wanted to also give a reminder that we do have online billing available, and our customers are always able to go and look up their utility bills immediately upon their issuance. So right at the first of the month, our residents have access to know what their utility bill amount due is. And they can also sign up to receive those statements via email so that they don't have to go through the Postal Service at all. And then they can make those payments directly online or over the phone. So there are multiple other ways for people to get their statements, and we're just trying to get that message out. We've had that system in place since I think 2014, but apparently we need to do a little bit more talking to people so that they know that it's available. So we'll be working on that. And then one other thing, I just wanted to formally announce that the recreation supervisor position was filled by Mary Ramirez, and she has been in City Hall as our utility billing clerk for 7 years. She is an excellent choice for this. Her family is very involved in the community and in youth sports and all kinds of things. She knows so many people. When I went around to introduce her to the staff and go look at, some of the programs that we had going on, it was amazing how many people were running up to her, kids giving her hugs, talking about how they were so excited to see her. It's really going to be a great match for that position. So it again makes me want to tell the council, thank you so much for approving the reclassification to put that position as a supervisor, which was much more suiting for it. Because by doing that, that is how we were able to get this person who had been working with us for 7 years into such an amazing role that fits her based on the salary that was available that works for her family. So all these things make a big difference, and thank you guys very much.
Jackie.
I have another report.
Ms. Martin.
I have a lot to talk about. So you kind of jump over to the co-compliance side of things. So that's where I'll start tonight. So I sent off a list of red line edits to amend the IPMC. We adopted the International Property Maintenance Code by reference. Wanted to modify that code a little bit to be a little bit more aggressive and go after these targeted properties that have been quite some time. I just got those red lines back today, so I will be happy to bring it to our public safety meeting to discuss that. So I have a plan of attack to go after the vacant buildings. I've been looking our two code enforcement officers as we go through this. It's a bit of a learning curve for all of us because it's a new process. Essentially, what I want to do is close. We're really, really close right now. We came across a property last week, had a lot of issues with, so this is kind of the launching pad. So we have sent out a notice to the property owner to abate the property. It's 14 days. If he does not, well, he will be served with a notice of warning. Property, if not, then we will act upon the violations in the act, meaning the property. So that letter was sent out last Friday, I believe. So yes, was something. If you so, and that's the current version. So I have to bring to you the a little bit more, maybe a little bit harder. So we're currently right now, one of this, for example, right now. But I have in the amendments for if the property owner decides to ignore us. Council. So that's where I am with the IPA. I've been working on very busily in the month and I don't know 5 days that I've been here, and I'm glad that we have this launching point right now to get this going and then see hopefully some compliance on these properties. And the same goes with vacant buildings. So this is vacant buildings. With those, the vacant buildings with it's very simple. We basically give them a year. There's no cost. That's what I have in the safety meeting. That plans to bring those to a city council. So this is busily working. So I want to give it all away up front. So I want to have something about it. And moving on to a couple other items. So we are looking at the potential of maybe setting up an improvement loan program. Remarks, and I think I've been looping community services division in with this, so there might be some opportunities here to do low interest opportunities. Really great. It might go a long way towards helping some property owners maybe in the roof or maybe help working on that. And then we have an abatement fund that thoughts and ideas and discussion about. And again, I want to bring that to this maybe our council on what we might do with homes that have been dinged out, placing using those interest rates. That's kind of what my thought process is right now. Yeah, there's a lot that's going on. I'm happy, and of course, I do need to bring you the code compliance cases. I was going to bring that to you as your next from the any questions for me?
Questions for Mr. Martin?
questions, but good job.
Thanks. I forgot to also mention that our first Community and Economic Development Commission meeting was this past month, and I think it was great. So I think they're
Talking on the numbers, they seem pretty excited.
I guess I'll go. I have just something minor, small. We, as city manager, all those days last week, we went through. We made 2 conditional offers this last week. One individual accepted the position. Actually, that was from conditional to final offer. The individual accepted. He's Cameron Hubbard from the city of Yakima Fire Department. He'll be coming August 16th. We made another conditional offer to Paul Sullivan from the Baltimore City Fire Department. Still haven't paid his money. Visited, he flew out here on Wednesday, was here Wednesday, Friday, and flew back, so we're still keeping our fingers crossed on that. And then everyone's waiting around to hear what Chief Escalera has to say.
I think I said enough to you guys. Well, I think first of all, I'd like to start out with National Night Out. National Night Out has been fun. I've also been at all 3 events. And we've definitely had fun. We've been having a lot of fun at these events, and there have been great turnouts, and the turnouts have been pretty much what we expected them to be. And these neighborhoods are trying to engage as best they can, and I think it's been good. And so we look forward to 2 more. We got 2 more to do, and we'll be out there with that. Also, I just wanted to express one more thing that our program that we have been doing in order to address the crime and also address activity in the city does involve Mr. Martin very heavily. It involves the code enforcement officers, it involves streets, it involves all of those, it involves Mr. Saxon's office. It will involve council before it's done. So we are trying to pull from every avenue that we can in order to have some revenue here. That's all I have. Thank you. All right. Any more notes? All right. So anything else? No further business to come before us this evening. If there's no objection, we adjourned at 8:29.